This is the Aftermarket Radio Network.
Welcome to another episode of Business by the Numbers. I'm your host, Demarest, CPA with Paar Melis Associates. It seems like a lot of people in this economy are having a hard time balancing their budgets, and state and local governments are no different. The bad news is, for business owners like you, that one of the easiest way for these state and local governments to raise money is through you, and one of their favorite methods is through sales tax. Whether they're charging it, increasing the rates, or going out and collecting this from you guys, they are doing it, and they are usually not nice about this. What to do to hopefully protect yourself from an audit, and even some things to do if you are audited, is exactly what we're going to talk about this week. Before we get into that, I just wanted to stop and say thank you to you and the rest of the dedicated listeners. Remember, if you want to hear your question answered on here, shoot me an email at podcast@parmelis.com. Want to talk to us about accounting and tax services for your shop? Give Paar Melis a call or text at 301-307-5413. And lastly, we cannot forget our dedicated sponsors, NAPA and Promotive, for being such loyal supporters of the show. If you need a new shop management system, give Trax a call. And if you need to hire the next rock star for your team, give Promotive a call and let them help you out, just like they have hundreds, if not thousands, of other shops. For over 30 years, NAPA has made selecting the right shop management system easy by offering the best, most comprehensive SMS in the industry. We'll prove to you that Trax is the single best shop management system in the business. Visit them online at napatrax.com. That's napatracs.com. Great news! You now have a hiring partner to help you with the heavy lifting of hiring your next superstar. Introducing Promotive, a full-service staffing solution for your auto repair shop. Visit them online at gopromotive.com. I might have told this story before, but unfortunately it's good enough that you might have to hear it again. But what I'd like to talk about, and I was actually just talking with a client about this morning, is everyone is afraid of the IRS. Even to, an early age, people talk about tax evasion, white-collar crimes, and if you lie on your taxes, how much this is going to hurt, and you're going to spend some time in federal prison, like all the other people that we have caught. The reality of that could not be farther from the truth. I say this all the time. The IRS does a great propaganda machine that they are all-knowing, and you are going to get caught. Realistically, in practice, 99.99% of you will not ever talk to the IRS, see the IRS. Sales tax is a little bit different here. Sales tax is different for a couple of reasons, and we'll talk about that later, of why they get so bent out of shape about sales tax specifically. But I would say, again, 90% of you are never going to have to worry about a sales tax audit. So if you want to look at this and, these basic numbers are probably correct, about 10% of shops are going to probably go through a sales tax audit sometime in their career. If you want to go in your total career and you're going to do this a long time, if you do this more than 20 years, I would say probably 50% chance you get a sales tax audit. But whether you do this 10 years, 20 years, 30 years on it, realistically, you probably have less than a 1% chance of an IRS audit. Why am I talking about this? Why am I warning you guys about this? Because if this goes wrong, it can really go wrong. So the story that I'm telling is not a current story, but I think it does relate to current times because of the reason why my client got in this position. So this is probably the worst case scenario story. I'm not going to tell you guys that this stuff happens all the time, but it is happening, and this could happen to you. And just like a lot of stories, I hope to kind of share this as a word of caution on this, and then we're going to also kind of unpack this story of what my client could have done differently here, or what you can learn from it to hopefully not make the same mistakes. I'm going to paraphrase this one. This probably dates back about 5 to 6 years when this originally came up. But where we're going to pick up the story is during COVID. The origins of the story are fairly basic, and it's something that a lot of people can probably relate to. 2018, 2019, my client got a little bit behind on some bills. Business wasn't doing too well, and when he came to the 20th of the following month to pay his sales tax, he didn't have the money. So he missed a couple payments. I think he short paid a couple payments. More or less, like some people have done, they were using the sales tax money to kind of cash flow their business. He got in trouble. He got yelled at on this. I think the agents actually went out and paid him a visit on here. And if you do this once, they're going to get mad. They're going to show up, but they're probably going to forgive you. you guys are collecting this stuff on a daily, weekly basis, and you guys have to give them one lump sum check. If you've been doing this 20, 25 years, you figured out how to cash flow this, how to plan for this, but you guys can probably all, relate to a time when it wasn't that easy to just give the state or the county their sales tax money. My client was set up and, had agreed to pay back this money. I want to say that the overall agreement was no more than $40,000. This wasn't like my client was years behind on sales tax. I think that this balance had built up of, not paying or short paying 6 to 8 months. He gets back on his feet. Things are going okay. And then 2020 hits. So COVID hits, like a lot of people, the short-term kind of panic of some of their customers made him get into another cash crunch. So after diligently paying this payment plan for probably 12, 18 months on this, he misses a couple months. COVID is going on, thinks nothing of it. And if you remember, during COVID, they were still enforcing this stuff, but not a whole lot of people were doing anything about it. Flash forward to, let's say, late 2020. My client has been back on the payment plan. He's been sending them the payment, but there's still 3 or 4 months that haven't been paid. Again, when stuff like this happens, you guys make mistakes, and agencies reach out to you. The first word of warning that I'm going to give you guys is do not ignore them. If you get a notice from the IRS, if you get a notice from the state, county, whoever it is, the worst thing that you can do is do nothing, because then they think, hey, did this person see it? Or, hey, this person saw it and they are going to try to purposefully ignore us. My client didn't do any of that. He claims he didn't see this stuff. I think that he didn't want to deal with it. So the agents paid him a visit. These people have guns. These people have handcuffs. This can turn criminal if it gets far enough. And came and talked to my client and said, what's going on? You had an agreement. You agreed to us that not only would you stay current, but you would pay us our money. And what you have shown us is that is in fact not the case. Tried to go back and say, hey, it's COVID. Tried to say, hey, you know what? I don't really handle that stuff. I've done everything. That's my wife. My wife is the bookkeeper. My wife handles the sales tax on it. I'll talk to her later, but pretty much threw his wife under the bus. Agent said, fine, no worries about it. We will come back and we'll talk to you later. We'll let you know. There is a lot more to this story on it, but I'm going to cut to the end because that's what is important. Because my client told them that this was not his problem, that this was actually his wife's responsibility, the agents went and his wife spent a couple days in jail. This turns into, I'm not sure what the official statute on there, but this does kind of turn into criminal fraud, embezzlement, if you, what they feel, purposefully disrespect what they've instructed you to do. Now, obviously, if your wife gets arrested for something that is definitely not her fault, my client went and said, hey, it was not her doing the sales tax. I was really just trying to not take responsibility. It was, in fact, my responsibility. To make things equal, they are not a sexist agency. He was also put in jail for a couple days as well. Flash forward to today. My client is still alive. He did not end up spending any time in prison. But between him and his wife, they spent a little over probably a week and a half in jail for what we are probably going to say was $30,000 to $50,000. I will be honest with you. This is not something I've ever seen before. This is hopefully not something I've ever seen again. I like to think that my clients give me all of the story. I am the same as you, thinking of, wow, this is one of the more egregious things that I've ever seen. This is also not third hand. I know for a fact this happened. I talked to them. Unfortunately, we tried to work through this. And this is really just what happens when you are dealing with a local agency and you really, really make them mad. Like I said, the overall story to get out of this is don't play around with sales tax. And these folks get really mad and to the point that they will put you in jail. They will lock your store up. They will levy your bank accounts. I have seen all of this stuff. But the big thing here that I kind of alluded to before is, why are they so mad? This is the kind of almost anger and petulance that you don't really see with the IRS. It's almost like we stole these people's money. And that is exactly of why they are so mad. Income tax is something completely different. Hunt makes $100,000, so Hunt should be paying some of that to the government as their share. It's my money that the government knows is my money, but they say, Hunt, we want you to pay some of your money to us. Sales tax is different. Sales tax is what you call a trust tax. When I collect sales tax, I am not charging sales tax. I am charging sales tax on behalf of the state or the county or the city, depending on where you are in the United States. So the reason why they get so mad about this is it's not, you didn't make money and not give a portion of that to us. You took our money. You lied to the public and said that you are collecting 3%, 8%, 9% of their invoice, and you have that. That's fine that you don't have any profit of your business, but the money you're keeping is not profits. This is state money. There is one other thing that is also a trust tax, and that is withholding, payroll taxes. Because again, this is money that you are taking from the employees, and they are trusting you to hold that and give it to someone else. If you do not pay trust taxes, like sales tax, like withholding, they will get nastier than you have ever seen. What can we learn from this? You don't mess around with trust taxes. I get it. Things are tough. You might not be able to pay your income tax. There is chances of that happening. There is absolutely no reason that you could ever justify not being able to pay your sales tax because it's not your money. It should never went into another bank account or be thought as such. And same thing with your employees withholding. If your employees owed $1,000, you paid them $750 because you withheld $250 of their withholding. You can see how messed up it is for you to say, hey, not only is my employee not getting it, neither is the government. I'm going to keep it. They get mad. They will yell. But the IRS is probably not going to put you in jail for payroll taxes. And if they do, you'd probably have to owe them a couple $1 million for a very long time. Unlike sales tax, they have a short fuse. Another thing about this is the IRS, there is law and order. The IRS, there is case law on this. The IRS, we can appeal this stuff. We can go to a manager. We can get it transferred to a different office. There are hundreds, thousands, maybe less than there was yesterday with the current economy. But there are so many people at the IRS to deal with an issue, to get a different opinion on this stuff, to fight this stuff, whatever it is. What we can learn from this story is sales tax offices are generally very small. If this is done in your state on a county level, it could be 2 or 3 people. Some of these audits have gone so bad because if this agent really has it out for you and you do not have your documentation correct and they just feel like, hey, you're guilty, we can appeal this, but your manager might be their best friend. They might be the manager, or they might even be the county commissioner. Some of this, we start dealing with small town politics stuff where life isn't fair, right? But who are you going to complain to? The big thing on it, you shouldn't be getting in a point to hopefully have that argument. NAPA Trax has made selecting the right shop management system easy by offering the industry's best, most comprehensive SMS. It all starts when a local representative meets with you to learn about your business and how you need to run it. After all, it's your shop, so it's your choice, and having a local representation is a huge plus. Customizing Trax to your business, whether you're a one-person shop or a large multi-bay or multi-location company, our representative consults with you to help optimize your shop's workflow, efficiency, and profitability. And unlike the other guys, we'll be there for you after installation with the best training and support in the business with a learning management system tailored to each role in your company. Simply put, Trax was designed and built for shop owners just like you. Visit us on the web at napatrax.com. That's NAPATRACS.com. Are you tired of spending endless hours searching for the perfect talent to join your team? Promotive is your full-service automotive staffing solution. At Promotive, we believe in being more than just a recruiting agency. We become an extension of your team, working tirelessly to ensure we place the right talent with the right shops. With our always be recruiting mindset, we're constantly seeking out the best professionals in the industry. We manage 90 to 95% of the recruiting process, taking the burden off your shoulders. When you partner with Promotive, you gain a dedicated recruiter and account manager who will work closely with you, understanding your unique requirements and seeking out candidates who fit seamlessly into your shop's culture. We'll ensure that every candidate we present is thoroughly vetted and aligned with your needs. With Promotive, you'll have a peace of mind knowing that we're handling the recruitment process with expertise and precision. We don't just match resumes, we match character, culture, and long-term success. Visit our website at gopromotive.com today and experience the power of Promotive's expertise and dedication. Together, we'll build a stronger and more successful team. So the last thing on here of what we can learn from this, answer the notices, don't mess around with trust taxes. And the last one on here is you broke an agreement. If you screw up, if you go and you throw yourself in front of them for mercy, guys, I messed up, I got behind, I'm going to stay current and I'm going to pay you guys on a monthly basis to get this caught up, you generally get one shot at this. IRS, again, you can keep on burning them every single year until it gets a massive amount. They're probably still going to do an installment agreement with you. The sales tax people will generally give you one shot. And if after they do that, they don't really do anything else. Understand this. The IRS, you guys pay them a number of things. You guys pay personal income tax. If you're a C corporation, you're paying them business tax. You're paying them payroll tax. You might even pay them excise tax. There is a number of different ways of why it's important for the IRS to have you be in business. So when we see people fall behind, the IRS is generally willing to work with you because they're saying, hey, we're going to make more money with Hunt and his business if we can keep them alive, keep them having employees, keep them paying payroll taxes, income taxes, and the like. Sales tax is very different because since these sales tax offices are generally set up to collect one thing, they say, if Hunt's Auto Repair is not paying us sales tax, there is no reason for us to have Hunt's Auto Repair in business. So what are we going to do if you break your agreement or you ignore us or you don't pay us the amount? We are going to go to your building and we are going to physically chain your doors shut. Now, when you physically chain your doors shut on it, magically shops figure out pretty quickly how to come up with the money to get this unlocked. Physically, you're not going to be able to get into your shop until you give them 20, 30, 40, whatever it is. Maybe they don't want to physically come out to your shop. They can levy your bank accounts. I've had clients that have had hundreds of thousands of dollars immediately levied and held because they have enough power to do so. I've had a combination of both, and if you're unlucky as the client that we used in kind of the title story here, you can have all three. I don't know what else I got to tell you to warn you guys on this stuff. Do not mess with sales tax. If you think you might owe it, pay it. And if you have screwed up, you get one shot at this. You generally can burn them one time, and then you have to be a good boy or girl going forward and make sure you don't break that trust, and you will have no issues. Let's be realistic. Not all of you guys are going to get audited for the things that you do. There is such thing as a random sales tax audit, and we will see these every once in a while. Pennsylvania, if you're in Pennsylvania, specifically southeastern PA, Philadelphia suburbs on there, you guys are probably the most likely area that we deal with to get random sales tax audits. The unfortunate thing is they keep on doing these random sales tax audits for auto repair shops and collision shops in southeast Pennsylvania, which means if you are in southeast Pennsylvania and you're annoyed by this, tell your other shop owners to start paying their sales tax. They're not going to repeatedly come back to the same industry, the same people, if they don't find anything. You only have yourself to blame. The good news on this is as far as getting audited on a sales tax return, I generally don't see people get audited twice. If you have a random sales tax audit and the audit goes well, we don't really see people coming back to check them again. And honestly, even on the flip side, I've had some sales tax audits that have gone really, really poorly. And one that I would look at and say, you should probably go check on this person again. And they really don't. These are usually small offices. And again, they usually think, hey, we hit them once. They're not going to be as stupid to do it again. Most people aren't. There is a chance that you could get a random sales tax audit. But of all the sales tax audits that are out there, I would say less than 5% are from a random event. Not that these are in ranking orders on here, but these are kind of the top reasons of why I think people are getting audited. No one's ever going to admit to you why this is happening, but from my personal experience of my clients that have got audited, these are the top things that I see. And again, hopefully words of warnings. Just like we warned here above, if you get behind on filing or paying your sales tax returns, you are very likely to get a call, a visit, and maybe a full-blown audit. If you're missing your returns, I don't have any money to pay my April sales tax, so I'm not going to file the return, they're going to have to come audit you to figure out what you even owe. If you don't have the money to pay the return, fine, but you still need to file it, and I would argue file it and immediately call them and say, hey, I filed this, I don't have it, here's when I expect to pay you guys. Open communication, open dialogue helps a lot here. What that would lead you to is another issue. We don't have a missing return any longer. We have a missing payment. The state now knows, or the county now knows, that we owe them money, and they're going to have to come get it if they want it. If you do it 1 month and you have a phone call of, guys, things got a little bit slow, I had a bad job, go south, I know it's due on the 20th, I'll get it to you by the 28th. Yeah, they're going to penalize you. Yeah, they're going to yell at you, but you could probably get away with that. You don't say anything to them and you try to get to them over the next 3 months on it, you're kind of rolling the dice there. Another thing on here. So make sure you first of all file and pay your taxes. That accounts for 80% of the audits right there. Most common things is not filing their returns and filing your returns and not paying them. If you're doing that, again, not saying that you're not going to get a sales tax audit, but you've eliminated the major ones. The second most common one on here would be amending returns. Right or wrong, be very, 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 very careful about amending a sales tax return. I'm not going to go out there and say it, but you probably shouldn't amend a sales tax return. I was going to say do not amend sales tax returns. There are some situations on it, but if you're thinking about it, you probably shouldn't do it. Let's say that you overpaid last month, but Hunt, I overpaid them $50 too much on the sales tax last month. All right, well then make the adjustment on this month. The only thing that the state could ever do is if they looked at this and say, well, Hunt, you overpaid us on April and you underpaid us on May. And even they're smart enough to realize what we did there. However, when you go back and you open up a prior period, imagine how that looks on their end. Hey guys, I remember I told you that I owed you like $3,600 last month. Actually, I went and double checked my math and I only owe you $3,200. And now you got to send me $400 back. You can see the state never likes to send money back. And there's a good chance they come out there and say, yeah, we're going to double check your math for you. Even the same flip side, though. You go back and say, guys, I gave you $3,200. Hey, sorry, I realized I actually owed you $3,600. Do they think, oh, wow, look how honest this person is? Or, hey, if they messed this up this much, do they even know what they're doing? Or do we need to go out there and make sure they know what they're doing? And the last one on here is fairly uncommon, but we're starting to see more of this now with the updated computerized reporting and some of what these states and counties are doing. But if you're playing around with your sales tax, you could get caught. The biggest way that people are getting caught right now is they're making up their monthly sales tax numbers, saying that they had less in sales, so they owe less in sales tax. But if you reported a total of $1 million for annual sales on your sales tax returns, and they see your end of year income tax return reports $2 million in sales, you're probably going to have a notice. The last situation we had this happen on actually was a client that was in 2 different states, and so it was 100% legitimate. Their sales looked to be like they were underreporting all of their sales when actually half of those sales were coming from a different jurisdiction. They still ended up paying money. These guys don't usually show up and leave for free on there. They popped them for a couple of things. But if you can leave a sales tax audit with owing no money, I generally say, hey, you're probably going to owe a couple $1,000s. These agents generally find enough money to cover their own expenses of them showing up there, but that's a win. Speaking of audit, let's talk about that a little bit before we wrap this up. If you are getting audited, you are really in 2 different buckets. And depending on which bucket you are, and I'm going to give you some piece of advice. So bucket number 1 is you don't owe them anything. You've done everything by the book as far as, hey, maybe you messed up on shop supplies. Maybe you didn't charge it on some fees. But you're thinking to yourself and you're saying, Hunt, I try to pay my taxes. I don't play around with this stuff. I don't game it, whatever. If you're in that boat, you have nothing to worry about. And we're going to talk in a second here about like what they're going to look into. But this is not something that you necessarily need to panic. This is not something that I'm saying, don't handle this. You need to have an accountant or a lawyer handle this stuff. No, if you have nothing to hide for sales tax, generally being more or less an open book is going to prove your innocence there. And a lot of times, it's pretty quick for them to tell that someone's playing around or they're not. If you're saying to yourself, Hunt, I have been playing around with sales tax. I've been making customers exempt from sales and they're not exempt. I've been underreporting my overall sales or doing what any number of things that I've seen over the years. If you get audited, should you call an accountant? Even in that case, and I tell my clients, this is fewer and far between, but hey, it still happens. And even a good accountant like me cannot help you in that situation. If anything, it actually gets your accountant into an even weirder spot. Because if they are knowingly using this, if they are knowingly allowing you to report the sales tax, not that they're really going to do anything to me on it, but it's obviously a bad look. If you do get audited and you're significantly underreporting your sales tax on it, there's not a whole lot you can do here, really. It's fairly simple of what they look at here, and what we talk about here next is going to show you of why there's not a whole lot an accountant can do because they usually have you pretty dead to rights. When they look at your sales tax and they try to make sure that you are reporting everything, what they do is they compare 3 different pieces. So generally what they look at is your bank account, your sales tax returns that you filed with either the county or the state, and then usually you're going to look at your shop management software for auto repair shops. Sometimes that third one is going to be QuickBooks, but they usually want to see your shop management software because that's probably where the sales tax is getting calculated. If they look at this and say, hey, shop management software says you did $1 million in sales and you owed $100,000 in sales tax, and they compare it to your sales tax register or your sales tax returns, and that's exactly the same thing that's reported there, as long as you don't have a bunch of other random deposits going into your bank account that they think is under the table money, it's probably the end of your sales tax audit. If your sales tax return matched dead on to your shop management software and they can't prove that you got any other money, it's an open and shut case. If you are playing around with it and you haven't kind of been covering your tracks on there, between those three pieces, either your bank account, your shop management software, and your sales tax returns, they're pretty easily going to be able to find a discrepancy between those. If there's not a discrepancy between those, not to say that you're not doing something else, but it's going to be very, very hard for them to find. Those are the three things we're looking at. Our top line sales, total taxable sales, and sales tax matching. But Hunt, my Mitchell double charges some people, and that's not right. It doesn't matter. Almost every single time I've had a sales tax audit on there, they did not want to hear any argument if our shop management software said a number. If that's the number that the shop management software said, then we better have given the state at least that much money. They almost never get mad if you give them too much, but if we go and say, hey, I have duplicates in there, my advisors are bad at closing this stuff out, some of your bad bookkeeping or some of your bad administrative duties might actually end up costing this audit, whereas you might be worried about not charging sales tax. Some of this is just documentation to prove yourself innocent. Overall, there are always opportunities to game the system and save money, but sales tax is not one of them. If you think the customer should pay the sales tax, or maybe should, then charge it and make them pay it, because if the state or county comes and talk to you, it's going to be out of your pocket. Pay the stuff early, because paying your income taxes a couple of days late might not even cost you any money. For sales tax, that could cost you an audit. As always, please share with friends. If you have any questions, shoot me an email at podcast@paarmelis.com. Shoot us a text or a call at 301-307-5413 if you want to talk about accounting and tax for your shop. And just want to say thanks again for listening on the Aftermarket Radio Network. And don't forget to check out the rest of the shows on the aftermarketradionetwork.com and on your favorite podcast listening apps. Thanks again for joining me on Business by the Numbers. Stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you all next week.
You've been listening to Business by the Numbers with Hunt Demarest on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Follow Hunt on your favorite podcast listening app. Let him know what you'd like him to cover. His email is in the show notes. Hunt is all for advancing the aftermarket.